almost prefer the snow, right? Well, speaking of the snow, let's take a look at some of our top numbers that we've seen in the past 24 hours. Wisconsin leading the way with quite a bit of this, 10.5 inches across portions of northern Wisconsin, 8.5 inches there in Ironwood, Michigan. So we're adding up to these totals that are already above average for a lot of these places. Snow still to come. We could see feet across portions of the UP of Michigan. Now in Marquette, now get this. So here's Marquette in the UP. Since July 1st, we've had nearly 20 feet of snow. So since last summer through the entire season, that's about 3.5 feet above average. And we're going to add even more to that. So when you think of these places as being snowy places anyways, you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. But when you're talking about 3.5 feet of snow above average on the snowing season, that's a big deal. We've got winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories up. Heavy, wet snow coming down. This could lead to some power outages because it's not just the snow. It's going to add up in a big way, but also those winds. We've got a nice little system. You see it here in the water vapor. We've got our circulation spinning around, kind of acting like, I always think those look like a bowling ball, just kind of swinging in and bringing you this nasty weather. And you can see the radar truth of that circulation around that low pressure. Look at some of these observations that we've got right now. 42 degrees in Chicago, rainy, but the winds are gusting around 32 miles an hour. That tells me it feels like it's in the mid 30s. It's miserable out there. Rhinelander, you've got those winds gusting upwards of 30 miles an hour as well. And that is another part of this system. I think anytime you're getting kind of nasty weather that you don't want, when you throw the wind in, it immediately exacerbates it. Look at some of these gusts we're going to see in Marquette, 40, 50 mile per hour gusts. Certainly power outages are possible. Detroit, 25, 30 mile per hour wind gusts as well. That's sticking around through Tuesday into Wednesday before the system finally begins to clear out. So those winds are going to be hanging around for a bit of time. Now, my good news for you here in Detroit is that it's going to be windy and rainy and snowy and cold at times. The snow's really not expected to make any sort of serious accumulation, but here's my bright light at the end of the tunnel for you in Detroit. By this weekend, your temperatures are going to be in the mid 60s and you'll have more sunshine. So Alex, you just got to keep your sights on the weekend there in Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. Running high, maybe not as high as what was forecast, but high enough that there could be a danger out there.
So many different elements going into river forecasting that it's better to be prepared and better be safe than sorry. We have those flood watches up, especially across the higher terrain where you've got that water coming down from the higher elevations into some of the canyons. So you see the flood watches up across portions of Nevada.
Yeah, that snow belt is one of the big issues that we're going to be facing. Now, we are going to be bringing in some precipitation here over the coming days. In fact, over the next 7 days, we do have some wet weather from the Pacific Northwest, Southern California, parts of the interior as well. There'll be some snow also getting a chance to add up. How about maybe a foot plus in a few spots?
Right. The Sierra packing in more of that snow. That's what we're going to get. And it's going to add up in a big way. We're seeing this again, this round of weather like we had to kick off the year. It's continuing. So you're getting the snow in the higher elevations and the rain in the lower elevations, not to mention the wind and the cold. It's just such a not fun pattern.
You tend to think that things would be shutting down in the West during this time of the year, getting into the month of May now, certainly out of the rainy season. But yeah, we got another system that we're going to be watching. You see that coming down the West Coast, bringing in some of that rain, snow adding up as well. And you can see by the time we get to Wednesday, I'd say rush hour time, some of that rain trying to sneak down towards Southern California.
Yeah, you're going to have that rain sticking around, those below average temperatures, guys, along with those cloudy conditions. It's just not going to be, it's not going to be feeling very May-like for your first week of May. Let's take a look at what you can expect temperature-wise up and down the coast. Highs 10 to 20 degrees below average, but then you head a little bit farther inland and you're looking at the complete flip of the switch. You're talking about temperatures well above average and steamy.
Yeah, how about some 90s out there to contend with? Phoenix, that's the spot as we get into that Friday. 96 degrees expected for your afternoon. And we have to start thinking about now as we get to this time of the year, those cars that can heat up very, very rapidly, right? Even in a spot like Billings, Montana, expecting to see a high in the mid 70s for the day. But after 10 minutes in that car, 93 is what it's going to be like. And after a half an hour, 108 degrees. So getting dangerously hot, making sure you're checking that back seat for the kids and the pets in the car.
I almost think it's even more dangerous when it's, say, 79 degrees versus 96, because you might not think about it as much. Phoenix, you can see your weather roller coaster here going from 96 today to the upper 70s by Thursday. So you'll get a break from that heat. A little week with the season officially kicking off just 1 month from now. Can you believe it's that time?
It doesn't feel like it, especially when you walk outside. We're talking about snow in parts of the country and it's cold in the southeast. Hard to imagine hurricane season is just around the corner.
Yeah. Well, this is the time to get prepared because it's going to be knocking on our door before, and especially across portions of Florida where, one, they're still recovering from Ian, and then two, we've had such a busy dry season. It's like this is supposed to be the calm time.
Supposed to, and the weather situations over the last couple of years, it's not matching up.
Yeah.
Things aren't matching up.
We've had a lot of extreme weather, but not just in the Sunshine State. We've had a lot of snow in other places, and it's still not done.
Yeah, it is not done. That's what's again going back to it's not supposed to be doing this, right? I mean, come on,
Right.
this is ridiculous. It's not unheard of, but it's a little much.
Can we pump the brakes, please?
It's May.
Yeah,
let's get rid of this snow. Goodbye.
Yeah, let's do that.
Agreed.
Well, I'll show you where it's happening, and we're getting out this summer, right? People get more and more folks. We've seen it since, the things are getting a little bit back to more normal.
Right.
More folks getting out there and trying to travel and see the world.
And one thing that I've learned too is sometimes there will be airports kind of close to each other, and maybe you can fly into a cheaper airport and then take public transportation